everyone, Jaymes Mansfield here bringing you yet another video. Oh my god, you guys, it's yet another episode of Iconic Brunettes! Yes! Oh my god, it's been a while since I've had to say that. Oh my gosh, All Stars is almost over, which means you have to vote for me as Queen of the Fame Games! Yes! Voting will be opening up this week, so please vote for me for Queen of the Fame Games so that I can have a title. Like the beauty queen I think I am. Please vote for me, all right? Let's manifest it together. Okay, now with that out of the way, today's iconic brunette is one that has been requested quite a bit. She is iconic, fashion icon, humanitarian, all-around great actress, Oscar winner, Audrey Hepburn. Yes, the Audrey Hepburn. She is going to be our iconic brunette this week. Oh my god, many a dorm room has been painted with the image of Audrey Hepburn. But I wonder if many of you even know her story. Because a lot of us know like her fairy tale stories that she's partaken in with movies and such, but she's got a really fascinating backstory. All right, let's get into Audrey. Now, first things first, I wanted to do probably Audrey's most iconic look that everybody thinks about. Like I said, every dorm room wall has this picture on it. It's Breakfast at Tiffanys, Audrey Hepburn, that fabulous chic updo. 1960s down, gorgeous socialite hair. That's what we're gonna do today. Now, this wig is a little long for this look, so I'm gonna cut her short because if you look at Audrey's hair in the movie, it was about shoulder length that she put up. So if I did this, it would be so much hair to put up and it would look kind of like saggy and not very appealing. So we're just gonna cut some mock layers into it. It doesn't really matter being that intricate with it, just enough to like shorten it. Take off at least like 4 to 5 inches. And I'll layer a little bit in the top too. Also, she has very rigidly cut bangs, so we're gonna work on that as well. Now, Audrey Hepburn was born in Brussels, but she was raised in England. Yes, raised in England during war times. Now, she actually has a really like, not tragic, but just hard upbringing. Like you'd imagine like from watching Sabrina or Breakfast at Tiffanys or Roman Holiday, like she was this princess. But honestly, no. She grew up during wartime. She would run messages for the resistance while the Nazis were overtaking where she was living. Like it was hell. And the only refuge she had was through dance. She was a dancer, ballerina. She studied ballet, all forms of dance. And this was her escape until she couldn't practice it anymore. Because as we know in history, they really cracked down on anything artistic. Like anyone that was in the arts, they were targeting. So she knew she had to get the hell out of there. As luck would have it, she would get cast in the show Gigi. Now, Gigi is a great musical. Requires lots of dancing, this magical girl kind of role that any young ingenue would want. And Audrey Hepburn just had this natural gift where she wasn't really interested in being an actress. She said this many times. Acting was never what she set out to do. She wanted to be a dancer. And she was very serious about it. And she just kind of fell into acting because she had to pay bills. And lo and behold, she would find out she had a real knack for it. She was a natural. And like she just had this great natural charm that just captivated people. It also helped that like she had a beautiful face. It was unique enough where it like wasn't a classical beauty, but it was beautiful. And she had this like real girl kind of image to her. Whereas in the 1950s, Audrey Hepburn's look was kind of like the antithesis of what was considered the standard of beauty in Hollywood at that time. Like you had your Ava Gardners, Elizabeth Taylor, Marilyn Monroe. You know, that was what people thought of, like this super femme, hyper feminine look, very glamorous, very put together, very cinched at the waist, big breasted woman. Audrey Hepburn was not that. She had almost a boyish figure. She was flat chested, narrow, and she looked really good in clothes though. Like she looked fabulous in clothes, which would come to play in her later roles when she would get cast in Hollywood. But she was a sensation in Gigi. And while doing Gigi, she was taking little bit parts here, like literally nameless parts. Like she played like shop girl, waitress, things like that. But it exposed her enough and gave her enough to do where casting directors were taking notice of this girl. It was when UK talent scouts were looking for new faces for a film called Roman Holiday that they came looking at Audrey Hepburn. They had her test for it because Billy Wilder wanted an unknown. He wanted an unknown actress for this part. This casting director set his sights on Audrey Hepburn and brought her in for an audition. And like I said, she had a natural talent. Like she had a knack for acting. Like she was great at it. She took to it so well. So when she did her test, she blew them away. But Billy Wilder was still a little concerned, so he kept the camera rolling, and after she finished her scripted portion, he started asking her questions about her everyday life and her growing up during, being occupied by the Nazis. And she told all these stories about, how rough it was and seeing family members and friends taken away and she'd never see them again. And she spoke with such earnestness and such honesty that Billy Wilder instantly wanted to cast her. And so much so that they believed in her so much, they were gonna let her finish her turn in Gigi before they made her own holiday. That's how serious they were about her. They wanted her. They waited for Gigi to close and then they were gonna start filming. Now I'm going to cut this a little more and roll her up in a standard roller set pattern, and I'll be right back. All right, we are back. The hair is all cut and I even curled it. Yes, that is her. It's just a standard curl set, nothing really fancy. Audrey Hepburn made a splash in America with the film Roman Holiday. Now, this is essentially, if you've ever seen It Happen One Night or Aladdin even, this is kind of the same kind of storyline. A spoiled rich girl goes on an outing and falls in love, with a commoner and learns how fascinating, common life is. Audrey Hepburn is really, really doe-eyed and awesome and innocent in this movie, and really just a princess that is just bored with her life and the rigorous standards and stuffiness of, being royalty. She wants to live as normal people do. And she sneaks out one night and meets an American journalist who she thinks has no idea who she is, but he's totally in on it and totally knows. And they get into a whole bunch of adventures together, and it is fabulous. And she wears gorgeous gowns from Edith Head, and she looks amazing. She's got this really cute short cropped hair. She looked different, and I can understand why people got one look at her and thought, I like her. Magazines were divided with her. It went from, she is the next big thing, right? She is fashion. She is what is gonna be happening next in the realm of fashion, to other people just slagging her for her lack of figure and lack of just, traditional beauty at that time. They wanted a Marilyn Monroe and just didn't think she measured up at all. Couldn't understand what people saw. This would be the debut splash that really, really, really packaged her well for an Oscar nomination. When you watch Roman Holiday, it's understandable to see why she won an Oscar for this movie, because she is really, really good in it. Talk about a great American debut. She had a great director, a great script, and a great role that really packaged her well, along with a really fascinating story that the public just ate up. They loved it. It was thrilling, and she was so fascinating. Now, one could compare her almost to a Deborah Carr. Prim, not so much prim and proper, just elegant. She had this elegance about her, and that's the way they packaged her in Hollywood. Whereas Marilyn Monroe or Elizabeth Taylor, they had an edge, they had a sex appeal. Audrey Hepburn did not have that in her packaging. She was meant to be something for the every girl to see themselves in. A lot of her roles, when you watch them, are common girls that become these big glamorous superstars. Someone sees something in them and they make them beautiful. From Funny Face to My Fair Lady, okay? She played a lot of the same kind of role in the studio days. But to much fanfare and to much success, her movies made a lot of money. So much so she got a little sick of the makeover roles and wanted to dive into something that would be a lot more challenging for her. Breakfast at Tiffanys is written by Truman Capote. Now, Truman Capote was a fabulous gay writer in the 1950s and 60s. His big heyday was In Cold Blood, which was the novelization of a really heinous murder that happened in Middle America that was made into a film, and it was a huge success. But another book of his is being optioned for movie rights, and it took a lot of coaxing to get Truman Capote to sign off on it and to surrender his work. And this work was Breakfast at Tiffanys. Now, Breakfast at Tiffanys is based a lot upon girls that Truman Capote had known in New York. As he described it, there were girls that went to New York, spun around, got dizzy, and then fell off. And when you read the book, it's very, very short. And it's essentially written in just passages from someone's life. It's a very, very bitchy, I'm assuming gay man, who is just fascinated with a woman, a friend of his. And he just writes about her escapades that she gets into and all the trouble she gets into. And he's just fascinated by her. But from the tone of it, he's not in love with her or anything. It seems like just a gay guy who really, really thinks this girlfriend of his is fascinating. And what a weird life she lives. Like, she's so flighty. She's Holly Golightly. When they approached Truman Capote who he'd be interested in seeing play Holly Golightly, immediately one of his first choices was one of his very good friends, Marilyn Monroe. Now, Marilyn Monroe at this time, this is like the mid-1960s, all right? She wasn't in a great place as far as Hollywood and her life goes. Like, she had a lot of demons that she was going through, and she had worked up this reputation of not showing up to work and not knowing her lines and just general unprofessionalism that like made her seem unreliable when it came to booking her for work. So she was considered and then promptly dropped, and they started searching off for the next girl to play Holly Golightly. Now, a lot of girls were considered for this role, but they kept coming back to Audrey Hepburn, and she had feigned a little interest in this because it was so far removed from anything she had played before. Like I said, she was known for playing like good girls and really elegant girls, but she would essentially be playing a call girl. Like, there's no way around it. Like, she is, that was her line of work, professional party guest, you could say, but she was getting paid to escort. Like, it is mentioned very thoroughly in the novel that this is what she does as a profession. And of course, they would have to really clean this up for the film because in the 1960s, that was a no-no. You could not talk about that. So they had to really code it. And if you like watch the film, there's certain phrases that are so dated that no, just slip by anyone's head. Like when she asked for $50 for the powder room, a lot of people don't know what that line means. Like, that's essentially her asking her John to pay her. Like, this really, really fascinating process. If you want to learn more about that, I suggest watching my friend Isabel's video on it, Be Kind Rewind. She did a fabulous essay on Audrey Hepburn's career, like Breakfast at Tiffanys and her Oscar wins, because she's got such a fabulous journey. But yes, she was interested in Breakfast at Tiffanys because it was going to be such an interesting departure for her. And when she took the role changed. Not only that, the novel itself completely changed. Like, all the queerness was removed from this novel in order to bring it to the screen. Now, I'm going to get a little more into detail about one of her most famous roles, but I have to tease this out first, so I'll be right back. All right, we are back. The hair is all teased out. Now it's time to start brushing it and creating this updo hairstyle. Now, this is the hairstyle she wore in the iconic opening scene of Breakfast at Tiffanys, the much parodied scene where she's standing in front of the windows at Tiffany's, chicly dressed in this gorgeous Givenchy black gown and eating a croissant or a donut or something. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I watched that movie. In front of the windows of Tiffany's. Basically window shopping. But it's been often parodied and redone many times by the general public and by other artists. And it's understandable why. Like, it is an eye-popping scene. Like, you see it, it's quite a flash. Like, the way she looks and the contrast, like how her life truly is. But this is honestly one of those images where, like, people just know it. Audrey Hepburn is similar to, like, Marilyn Monroe in that regard, where, like, she's kind of just, like, a brand at this point. Like, not many people know much about her career anymore, even the movies she made. Or have even seen Breakfast at Tiffanys, but they know the imagery. Like, it's ingrained in pop culture. And honestly, just how weird and bizarre the whole tale of how Breakfast at Tiffanys came to be. Like I said previously, like, they completely took all the queerness out of this movie, including Holly's character, who is a lot more interesting than what she eventually became in the movie. She was eventually just a chick that wore a lot of really pretty clothes in the movie. But the way Truman Capote wrote the book, it was a little more melancholy, the ending. Like, it's fun, but, you know, Holly does not win in the end. Spoiler alert, but it's like a 50-year-old book at this point, so you know, catch up. So, it doesn't have the greatest ending, and the Hollywood movie did definitely improve upon that. Like, there are certain things that are great and a lot of things that are not so great about the movie. Many that are pretty obvious as to why now. Mickey Rooney being one of them. So, I digress. The movie is a gigantic hit, and Audrey Hepburn goes against type and gets a lot of rave reviews for this performance. This would put her on a course to a whole different part of her career. She did movies like Charade with Cary Grant, which is in the public domain. You can watch that one. Or my absolute favorite, she actually made a foray into horror and thriller in the movie Wait Until Dark. This is my favorite movies, okay? Like, picture it. It is the late 60s. Audrey Hepburn plays a blind woman, and her daughter finds a doll that happens to be filled up with, I think it's drugs, or maybe it's money, or maybe it's both. I can't quite remember. Watch the movie. And these bad guys are trying to break into her house and eventually do and steal it back. And they leads to her being terrorized by them. And there's this great scene near the end where the lights go out and you are seeing things from Audrey Hepburn's point of view as this blind woman. And it is as my friend Nora described it at the time when I showed it to her back in high school. As she proclaimed out, I am concerned for Audrey Hepburn's welfare right now. It really does hit you in the feels because like you're so used to seeing her as like Sabrina and now she's, you know, being terrorized by like, you know, Donald Sutherland or somebody. It's a good movie though, like definitely watch it. I love it when actresses that you don't expect end up doing horror. An interesting moment in Audrey Hepburn's career is she ended up playing the part in My Fair Lady, and there was some drama that happened with that, okay? Because the original stage version starred a then unknown actress to Hollywood named Julie Andrews. And Julie Andrews was like, similar to Audrey, she was a phenomenon. Like as far as Broadway and plays went, she was a fierce force to be reckoned with. And everyone knew like she would eventually cross over to Hollywood. It was just a matter of time. So when they bought the rights to My Fair Lady, they decided not to go with Julie Andrews because in their eyes, she was a nobody. Like who cares? It's just some Broadway actress. No one's gonna notice. So we're gonna get a star to be in this. So they cast Audrey Hepburn. And this kind of left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths because Julie Andrews had really put her foot in My Fair Lady. Audrey Hepburn is getting prepared to do this and she is singing her ass off, going to vocal lessons, and she really wants to sing her part in this film. And it is so tragic what they do to her. It is so shady. So what ends up happening is Julie Andrews, as a consolation prize, is offered the role of Mary Poppins for Walt Disney. Now, Mary Poppins was a gigantic hit of a book series by P.L. Travers. And the whole story there, okay, like they chased her down for over 10 years to get the rights to Mary Poppins. She was a notoriously stubborn woman, to say the least. And Walt Disney finally got her to agree to give him the rights to make Mary Poppins and adapt it. So when he did, he had fallen in love with Julie Andrews and cast her in it. And no one saw this coming. Julie Andrews was a huge hit in Mary Poppins. Like, immediately ate that role up. She ate, left no crumbs. And what happened is the press got wind of this and saw it and knew Audrey Hepburn was going to be in My Fair Lady, what Julie Andrews made famous. And the studio got cold feet about letting her sing. So what they did is, they let Audrey do all of her rehearsals and sing all of her tracks. And when it came time for the movie to be premiered, they had replaced her voice with a ghost singer. And she found out about this watching it in the theater. Like, how humiliating. Like, they let her on to believe that she was going to be singing her own parts. And when she got there to watch it, someone else's voice is coming out of her mouth. Like, she was mortified. The press really dogged her out for this whole thing. And the fact that she did not sing her part, despite the fact she put in the work and did sing it, they just didn't use her vocals. And it really created a negative campaign for her for the Oscars by the time it rolled around. So the idea of her winning an Oscar for playing this part was never going to happen. I mean, sure, we all would have loved to see Julie, but that just isn't how it happened. And she got an Oscar for Mary Poppins, so she's fine. She's fine, it's just fine, it's fine. Now I'm going to French twist the back of this, and then we'll fuss around with the front of this a little more. Be right back. All right, we are back. I French twist the back, and she's looking pretty good so far. Like, she's got to get a little cleaned up here in the front, but that's just a matter of just fussing with it. Now, I took down the bangs because she has like little teeny tiny bangs for this. So I took a small section here, and I'm going to use this to swirl up with the curl here. Set. Now, Audrey Hepburn's career in the 70s and 80s, she would do a couple of movies. Like, she kept a pretty low profile as far as it goes. Like, she really threw herself into philanthropy and becoming, you know, someone that just wanted to help the world. Children, all sorts of things. And she also was getting very sick. So, with the little time she had left on this earth, she wanted to put as much good back into it as she could. But the career she had in the 1960s is honestly like the tea. If you have to throw yourself into her filmography, definitely check those out because like they're nothing to sneeze at. She made some really good work. Look at that. Yes. Tiffany's. All right. Pin it a little bit. Just clean it up. Now, I had to clean it up a little bit, but she's pretty much done. We just need a little tiara here and a little long cigarette, which I probably won't have because, you know, YouTube policies, but it is what it is. Now, Let's just give a little tease to these bangs so that they have a little more shape to them, so we can cut them all scraggly like she had them. They're not necessarily the bangs I would go for. They're a little Courtney Cox-ish in Scream 3. Not my favorite kind of bangs, but to each their own. There it is. It's pretty accurate, I have to say. Like, I got cleaned it up a little bit and really helmeted off, but it's pretty close to how she would have had her hair. Because remember, she's playing a party girl that just threw her hair up. And most of that stuff, the imagery that she's known for, is her after a night of debauchery. So I feel like it's pretty accurate. Come on now. I just got to boost it up a little bit. I'm going to spray her down and get her into a helmet. And I'll be right back with the final result. Welcome back. This is the final result. Oh my God. I'm ready to eat a croissant in front of the windows of Tiffany's. Oh my gosh. Like, this is pretty accurate to how it looked. Like, again, it's really hard to find good quality photos of this where like you can see all angles of it. It's always just like, I can kind of see it, and I don't really want to go do the extra work to go watch the movie again because it's awfully long. Even if it is just watching the beginning of the movie. That's a lot to commit to. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this Audrey Hepburn inspired hairstyle for Iconic Brunettes. Yes. Oh my gosh. I adore Audrey Hepburn. She left such a great legacy, and it's understandable to see why she is so impactful in this day and age and why people are still obsessing over her.
Don't forget, Jaymes comes back on RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 8 this Friday.
The talent extravaganza episode of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 8. And believe it or not, I'm returning. Yes. Be sure and tune in and see my talent because the Fame Games voting opens up. That's right. July 14th is this week. So be sure and vote for me for Queen of the Fame Games. Yes. Look at my grassroots campaign. Oh my gosh. And I'd like to take a moment, a Venmo moment, where I thank everyone who's tipped me on Venmo. I would like to thank Sean, Rue, Patrick, as well as some YouTube super thanks from Regoat and Daniel. Thank you so much, you guys. Oh my God. Thank you so much for the tips on Venmo and the YouTube super thanks. Yes.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Now hit the outro. Click here and watch episode 10 of What I Would Have Worn on All-Stars 8. Or watch episode 9. Come on, click it. You know you want to. If you don't click it, I'll replace all your vocals on your song with fart noises. So click it.